Bret Hartman. I'm CTO of security at Cisco, so responsible for defining overall technology strategy around security for where the company's going. I spend a lot of time in the field, and so what I'll do just to set off this conversation is just talk about some of the issues, the challenges. I see the really, really hard problems that are out there right now in the cybersecurity industry that aren't exactly solved. We're certainly working on it, but we'll do that. You'll see a lot of tie-ins. I just caught the last session, a lot of tie-ins around the big data analytics, IoT space, certainly a lot going on there. And I will say, I mean, just the nature of cybersecurity, it tends to permeate everything these days. Very hot topic, a lot of controversy, a lot of huge challenges. So plenty to talk about in terms of breakthroughs and problems to go fix. So overall, approach. Overall, if we think about big picture, and a lot of what the rest of this workshop is about is the awesome technology developments that are going on, and as shown in the slide, the opportunity around digitization, whether that's for businesses, employees, consumers. The point is, however, that there's another category of folks that there is also another great opportunity for, and that's the bad guys, right? Because what happens is that we digitize more, as we share more information, as we connect more, the attack surface grows, and it becomes easier and easier for attackers to find a way into a system and do harm, whatever that is, whether it's to steal intellectual property, whether that's to do damage on a power plant. That's just an inevitable trend, I would say, of where technology is going in the world. You can see that trend year after year after year. The more we introduce complexity in systems, the more that we introduce connectivity, it's just intractable to make a system perfect. And I think as technologists, we'd all pretty much agree that's true. And anytime that system has a potential flaw somewhere in it, all the attacker has to do is find one, and then really, really, really bad things happen. I will avoid all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We can certainly talk about all the disaster scenarios. There are plenty to discuss. I will spare you them, but happy to go over that as you like. What I will do, though, in this short amount of time is to talk about three areas that are in particular big, hot topics in the cybersecurity area that we need to make progress. Would love to foster that dialogue, and I really hope that the panel after me, I hope takes up some of these topics and has a little debate. So I'll go into each one of them in turn. First, around automation. What does that mean, and why do we need to do more security automation? What's the point of that? Second, you touched on it, Bean, I think, touched a little bit on this, the convergence, or you could say collision, between the information technology and operational technology world. As we think about IoT, there are some massive challenges in that space. Third is around threat intelligence, very much ties into the data analytics theme that we talked about before. So I'll take each one in turn, just super high level, just to give you sort of to sketch out the problem domain. Okay, first area with respect to security automation. So we think about the threat landscape, and as I mentioned, it just gets worse, right? As an enterprise, this is a horrifying thing. As you talk to a CIO or a chief security officer, as a technologist, this is fascinating, right? Because this is what we do every day, is learn how the bad guys work and how to fix it. So it's a intellectually stimulating topic anyway. But the point is, as I just mentioned before, the attack surface grows. The sophistication of the attacks grow, right? And I'm sure we're well aware of this. We've moved way beyond the days of it's just a piece of malware that gets in and does damage. Typical attacks are multiple stage, social engineering. LinkedIn is an awesome resource for the attackers for social engineering. Not that, to your point, it ever gets used in the wrong way, but a case in point, it's fantastic if you want to understand relationships and cause damage, as just an example. And the actors themselves, whether we're talking about all nation states, organized crime, terrorist groups, all the and your average high school student, all are categories of people that could do harm. What we're realizing because of this growing threat is that there's got to be a more coherent, integrated architecture to solve the problem. It's never going to be solved by a box from any vendor, right? What we see in the world out there is lots of enterprises buying lots of stuff to solve this problem, but it doesn't really work unless it's an architecture, unless the pieces fit together. And What an architecture means to me is pretty much these three concepts. First of all, you got to have visibility, tying right into big data. You've got to have the raw telemetry to see what's going on in the infrastructure to tell whether or not something bad might be happening. The second is the intelligence big data piece. And security is a very important domain for big data analytics, massive investments there. So that's how you take that telemetry, turn it into useful intelligence to distinguish good versus bad behavior. And the second piece that I want to kind of dig into just a little bit more for the purpose of this challenge, which is enforcement. That is, what do you do once you have the intelligence? If something wrong is going on, what do you do about it? Well, the fact is, most of the time what happens is a big red light flashes on some poor administrator's console, and then months later, literally months later, they figure out how to stop something, and by that time, the awful breach has taken place, and they end up on the New York Times, and it's not so good.